Today I'm going to make some cream cheese. Very easy recipe. Just takes, as with everything, a bit of time, but other than that, very little work. Best thing about this recipe is the ingredients are very simple, and you can use the cheapest quality milk you can buy. Rather than going out and buying non-homogenized, non-pasteurized milk, you can use the good old cheap standard milk from the supermarket. All right, I'll run you through the ingredients. So, you're going to need 4 to 5 litres of full cream, cheap standard milk, milk or cheese culture. In our case, this one is mesophyllic, aromatic mesophyllic, some rennet, a bit of calcium chloride, a couple of glasses for your rennet and your calcium chloride, some kind of strainer, a nice long knife for cutting your curd, some type of cheesecloth, a thermometer, and a metal spoon. I would avoid using anything wooden. Just a word of warning. Tends to carry more bacteria or extraneous molds that may end up in your cream cheese and make it taste not so good. Okay, sanitization. Everything that touches the milk needs to be sanitized. You can do this by boiling all of the equipment in a little bit of water in a saucepan, or you can just use a brewing sanitizer, which is what I do. I find it much simpler and less work. So first things first, we'll sanitize the equipment we're going to use, in which case it's going to be the saucepan. You want a nice stock pot, because, you know, they're brilliant. Give it a good liberal spraying with the old sanitizer. Tip out your excess. Then open your milk, toss it in. We're going to heat it up to 25, 26 degrees. As long as we don't go over 30, it'll be fine. I tend to heat it up to 25 degrees and let the heat of the steel heat the milk a bit further, so you end up about 27, which is just where you want to be.
Why 25 degrees?
I think it's because the culture would normally live in like milk that came out of a cow, you know what I mean? So you kind of want to replicate the body temperature of a cow. I'm replicating the body temperature of a cow. 24 and a half! That's awesome. There we go. Done, 25 degrees. So now we need to add the culture to the milk. This culture will essentially set the milk. We do use a little bit of rennet as well, but this culture is the main reason that this milk will turn into cheese, that it will set. You can buy it in most places. This is a brand I buy in New Zealand. In this case, we're going to add 2 packets, which works out to about 1/4 teaspoon if you're one of these like prepper bulk buy types of mesophyllic culture. Who bulk buys mesophyllic culture? It's an odd thing, isn't it? There we go. Done. Now we're going to cover the saucepan so no other molds or anything else can get in it. And we're going to leave it for this culture to homogenize with the milk, to dissolve into it essentially. And that normally takes about 5 minutes. All right, 5 minutes. So 2 little glasses. We're going to add the rennet and the calcium chloride into a little bit of water just to dilute them a bit, which makes them easier to stir through the milk. If you add them direct, it makes it harder for it to dissolve equally through the milk. So I tend to use a bit of cooled boiled water because you, again, don't want any contaminants into the milk. Better sanitize my glass first. Into this, we're going to add 1 glass, 2 drops of rennet, anyone that's made cheese before will be going, that's nothing at all. You know, the culture is basically going to set the milk. The rennet's just there to help because we're using really cheap milk. Okay, so 2 drops. 1, 2. And calcium chloride. Again, we're using this because it helps set the curd because we're using very cheap milk. And 4 drops of this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we're going to stir everything together. So we're going to first stir in, without adding anything, we're going to stir in the culture a little bit more to make sure it's equally distributed throughout the milk. Again, sanitize, sanitize, sanitize. Give it a gentle stir. Okay, so then we add the calcium chloride. I feel like a mad dairy scientist. Okay, that's well stirred in. Now we're going to add the rennet. Now the trick with adding rennet into the milk is it starts to act straight away. So we're going to stir it for no more than 1 minute. In my case, probably about 15-20 seconds. And it's just to make sure that it's really all spread equally throughout the milk before you set it aside. Okay. All right. Now, we're going to cover this over again and we're going to set it aside for 24 hours, somewhere warm around that 24 degrees, your living room next to a heater. If you're in a warm place, might have to be under your house, you know, you don't want it getting baking hot. 40 degrees, probably kill all of the culture that you've put in it. So yeah, I leave mine next to the heater. It's springtime in New Zealand, so I leave it next to the heater and it works fine. Now in the great tradition, last night I did the same thing. Here's one I prepared earlier. Whoa, yeah, that's proper set. Lovely. Okay, so now we have to separate the curds, the solid part of the cheese, from the whey, the liquid part of the milk. So to do that, we're going to slice this big block of curd up, and that will allow all the whey, or a lot of the whey, to drain out. And then we're going to strain it by hanging it in some cheesecloth and letting the whey drip away over time. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to cut this up. Here comes your long knife. Sanitize, sanitize, sanitize. And we're aiming to cut it up into 2 centimetre cubes. Now obviously you can go that way and that way, but to do that way you just kind of have to, you know, give it a go at a funky angle. Something like that. Now, I like to set this aside for 5 or 10 minutes. This actually allows the curds to heal a little bit, which stops them ejecting all their whey straight away and means you get a nicer flavour cheese at the end. A little bit more texture to it. Okay, so I'm just going to set that aside. Now, we have to strain it, and what we're going to strain it in is cheesecloth. I've got this weird cheesecloth, but you go to any, I'll say haberdashery, if anybody knows what haberdashery is. Go to any material shop and ask them for cheesecloth. If you can't find cheesecloth, a very clean tea towel will do. Even an old t-shirt, you know, anything that you can strain liquid through. But cheesecloth's ideal. I use this weird tube type, which I find easier to use, but any type will do. Okay, so we need to cut ourselves a nice length of that, about that much. Yeah, about that much. Now, you need to tie the bottom up to make yourself a little bag so we can strain the whey into it. I'm going to use a zip tie for that. That goes on there. And then we're going to boil this whole thing for a couple of minutes. By boiling it, we're going to kill any bugs, creatures inside it. You don't want to soak it with sanitizer and then pour your milk through it. It's not going to be good. So we're just going to boil it up just for a couple of minutes in a little saucepan. So now we're going to strain these curds out. To do that, we need to get these cheese curds into the muslin, cheesecloth, whatever you're using. This can be a very messy affair. So grab your cloth. It's a little bit warm, all right? So, you know, don't be stupid and grab it. Ooh, it's toasty, that. And then stretch that bad boy. There we go. Over there. Oh, beautiful. Nice. So now we're going to ladle these curds into here. If we can leave as much whey as we can, the liquid part, in here as we do this. For that reason, I like to use a slotted spoon, or in my case this, I don't even know what you call it, big holy spoon. Yeah. So you just ladle into there. Dribbly dribbly. Yeah. Ooh, dribbly dribbly. So I've nearly got all of the larger pieces of curds out. You could make ricotta out of this bit. It's like still quite thick and creamy, but I don't really like ricotta because, you know, I'm odd. So instead, I just want to reclaim the lot, get as many dairy solids as I can out of it. So I just tend to pour it in. Now what we're going to do is pull this bag closed, and we're going to hang this bag up, and the whey is going to drip out of it. It's not a quick process. Again, it takes around 24 hours. You can get away, it's a bit of personal preference on how dry you like it, but I tend to find around 20 to 24 hours is good. So I'm gonna hang it up. I'm very lucky, I've got this rail above me. I don't know if you can see it, but I've got a rail above me with hooks on it, and I can hang it from that and just hang it over this saucepan, which makes it really easy. So I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna show you another way you can do it, which is nice and easy too. Pull this up. Like so. Get your string and tie it up like you mean it. Cool. Oh, that's a good happy bag of goodness, that is, isn't it? So now you just make yourself a little length of string. Put a knot in it, so you make a loop. There we go. Alright, you can see the whey that's draining out of it is lovely and clear. That's really what we want to see. If the whey that's coming out is milky, it means that we've broken the curds up too much and some of the dairy solids are coming out with the whey. So you're after nice clean whey. So it's going to drain crazy for probably a few hours, and it's going to really slow down to just drips. As I said, about 24 hours, don't touch it, don't get tempted to play with it, you don't have to refrigerate it, just leave it in your kitchen, it'll do fine. I've never had one go off, so yeah. Okay, I'll see you in 24 hours, and this will be a much smaller sack. If you don't have one of these fancy rails, the easiest way to drain the whey out is to tie it on a nice big wooden spoon or a wooden dowel, I don't know, plank of wood, whatever you've got, and hang it inside a bucket. Then the whey will drain into the bucket and you leave your cheese in the sack. Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and tie it on and put it in the bucket. Easy. Real easy. It's really easy. Oh, there we go. Oh, that's a nice full sack. There you go. Whey will drain happily into the bucket. Quick tip, make sure this is clean and sterile, and you can use the whey once it's drained off, because whey is very, very useful stuff. Okay, it's been 24 hours, pretty much exactly 24 hours. And my giant sack of cheese has now shrunk down somewhat, and we've got a fairly hard lump at the bottom. So now we're going to turn this out, and only one more stage to do, and that's to add 1% by weight of salt to this. At the moment it'll be a little bit bland. As soon as you add the salt, it tastes amazing. So the way we're going to do that is, you can do it by hand, you can whip it through really hard, but it's quite stiff and you get sore. The easiest way is to use a slightly average food processor and put it in it with the salt, and it mixes it perfectly every time. Alrighty, I'm just going to go ahead and do it, I suppose, because, you know, that's what I'm here for, isn't it? Doing stuff. Cheese. Right, so we need to weigh this cheese straight into the food processor container, save any washing up, because I hate washing up. So we have, get out my cheesy sack. There you go. Oh, get out. Oh no, it's too hard. 771 grams. So 1% of 771 grams. Second assistant director, could you do that in your head? Eight grams. We'll call it 8 grams because, you know, I like it a bit salty. So go and grab some salt and add 8 grams of salt into it. About that much, I reckon. Yeah, it was exactly that much. How good's that? Okay. And we give this a good whipping. Whip, 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 real good. Done. Oh yeah, it's good. Tastes like Philadelphia. Okay. Best way to keep this is in a Ziploc box. It will keep for easy couple of weeks in the fridge, and you can have it on everything. Crumpets, pancakes, bits of bread, smoked salmon, eggs Benedict, your finger. Go ahead and make it. It's really easy. Thanks for watching.
You could ask the ladies and gentlemen.
No, they're not going to like, comment, subscribe, or any of that shit.